Thanks for joining us, everyone. Tonight we've got with us on the first Hartlepool United Supporters Trust Hustings video, an interview exclusive, can we call it, with Hartlepool United Pools hero from back in the day, Tommy Miller. Welcome aboard, Tommy. How's things?
Yeah, not bad. Thanks for having us on. It's a privilege to be on the first one.
Making your debut not for the first time for Hartlepool United. I remember the game itself, Chester away, wasn't it, back in '97?
It was. You've got a good memory, Nick. Came on as a sub. I think we got beat 3-1, and then I made my full debut the week after, I think, at Doncaster.
Because like around that time, I remember you travelled with the team, with the first team squad under Keith Houcher, and I think Leyton Orient away was the first time it was known that you'd been involved in the squad and travelled. As a young kid, when you're a young lad, as a YTS as you were at the time, or just through your YTS, how was it, the whole experience, if you like, of travelling on the bus with experienced pros when Pools weren't doing it lavishly, and you know, you were travelling there, maybe there and back in the day to Orient? What was that experience like for you coming through?
Yeah, it was good. You know, it was part of learning, you know, growing up and going on the team bus and making the cups of tea. I think Keith Houchen just had us there to give the beers to the lads on the way back, I think. You know, I was going to the front of the bus asking the manager for a few cans and taking them back for the lads. But no, it was part of the experience, and I wouldn't change it. You know, it was fantastic, and it got a feel of what it was like to be a footballer, really, and to be in and amongst some experienced players. And it was brilliant for us.
You must have been a brave man to have to go and ask Mick Tate for some cans off him, didn't you?
Oh, very brave, especially when they got beat. You know, you had the experienced lads like Denny Ingram and Buddy or Stephen Halliday sort of saying, go down the front and get us some cans. And I think it was 50 pence a can. So I used to go down with the money, £2 or whatever, take 4 cans back for the lads, and they used to suck them, yeah. Them were the days. No beers now, I don't think, on the bus.
That's exactly it. I was going to say, you know, the game now, it's changed no end 100% from what it was just, 25 years ago. Is that sad that players coming through the ranks now in academy football, where it's a different brand of the game, that they don't go through that, you can call it initiation process, if you like, back in the day?
Yeah, I think it works both ways. I think that obviously the game's changed for the better as well. But I mean, it's sort of good learning that way as well. You know, when you mix it with some experienced players and they're telling you the rights and the wrongs, and they're sort of not putting their arm around you and sort of praising you all the time. You know, you need to be told and you need to learn. And I think I learned the hard way at Hartlepool, but I wouldn't change it. It was brilliant. You know, I used to go down the front of the bus, get the cans, and in them days, it wasn't like, how long back was it from, say, Torquay? It was how many cans. You know, I used to go at the front of the bus and say, how long's left? And it's a good 6 cans. You know, and that's how it was. And like you say, there was some good lads, good experienced professionals, good seasoned pros, and I learned a lot from them in both ways, really, off the field and on the field.
Yeah. And then obviously they had that, when you first came through, it was a tough time for the club around, and then the takeover came with Ken Hudcroft IOR taking over. So you must have witnessed quite a sea change in the way the club operated, and on many different fronts, as you were just coming through the ranks.
Definitely. You know, I mean, we were scrimping and saving for stuff in the early days when I was there. You know, we'd go out and warm up in all sorts of different gear. You know, we looked like raggy arse rovers, sort of say, you know. And then IOR came in, a little bit of money behind them. And then Chris Turner came in and changed the whole sort of professionalism, I think, around the club, and changed it for the better. And then obviously the team got better as the seasons went on, and obviously had the playoff semi-final games. And suddenly Hartlepool was on the up. You know, rather than fighting relegation, they were looking towards the top of the table, which was brilliant, and is which way you want to be as a player.
Chris always seemed to have that understanding, if you like, with IOR, where pretty much got what he wanted. You know, he was allowed to spend decent money on 2 strikers in Freestone and Jones to give people the belief that could score goals this year, because it was a difficult period taking over from Mick Tate, because I think the club were in the bottom 2, looking towards, you know, it was pretty much a shootout between Pools and Scarborough for relegation, wasn't it, at one time?
Yeah, it was, and that was tough times. You know, I mean, the whole sort of pressure in and around the club. You know, you speak about pressure, but I mean, that was real pressure. You know, lads are fighting for their careers as well, really, because obviously if they got relegated and Hartlepool went out the Football League, it would have been a disaster. I know it's happened now of late, but I mean, back then, that was real pressure. You know, like you say, you don't want to lose your job. People in and around the club as well who would lose the job, and we managed to stay up. And then, like I said, Chris Turner came in and changed everything really, and got us up towards the top of the table. And there was better times certainly with him.
One of the signs that things were on the up and improving was Pool's being able to sign Peter Beardsley. For a young lad like yourself, then that must have been probably not as much a dream it was for Brian on to be around him like he was. But for you, it must have been an honour to be able to play alongside him and learn from him.
Unbelievable. I mean, Brian used to follow him all over. I think Peter Beardsley used to give me his watch to look after when we were training. I mean, you're not talking any sort of cheap Casio watch or anything like that. These are full-on £10,000 plus watches, and Brian used to wear it. And I think Brian used to think, "Oh, I might get home with this," you know. And but now Peter Beardsley was a hero of mine growing up. What a player! Came to Hartlepool. Yes, he was at the end of his career, but he still had that class. On the ball, he was brilliant. You know, he could find a pass. I did all his running back then. But I didn't mind because I was playing against a hero of mine, and like I say, I learned a lot as well.
Probably a lot with Beardsley at the time. Yes, he was at the end of his career and he finished playing that season, but he still had, it was all in his head. He still had that ability to find the pass that maybe, dare I say, players at the club weren't on that same wavelength with him, were they, at the time?
Definitely. You know, there was times in training where he was that many steps ahead of the other lads, you know, and he'd get frustrated a little bit. But at the same time, he was such a down-to-earth man, you know, considering his career, considering where he played. Just a nice fella, you know, down-to-earth, do anything for you, would help you, would always give you advice. And he would always give you a chocolate bar, because he used to get on the front of the bus with a bag of Marks and Spencer's chocolate, and he would just munch them chocolate bars all the way to the game. Loved his chocolate, hence the reason he didn't have any teeth.
He didn't drink, never drank his teeth, thought we just eat chocolate bars there and back non-stop. So how many Mars bars?
Loved his chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of them. It wasn't cans for him. It was how many chocolate bars is it?
But then it was like, you know, Beardsley left. Chris that summer had a real turnaround, and that was when you really came to the fore, and he seemed to find a system, a formation that suited you, playing in that central, that 3-man centre midfield unit.
It did. It suited me perfect for us, you know. I think he must obviously saw something in training. I mean, I was a bit unsure what I was as well when he came to the club, because I'd played as a sitting midfielder to try and get the ball off the defenders, and then I played a little bit further on, and then I was playing with Chris Beach as well, who would like to get forward, John Cullen, who would like to get forward. So I was having to do a little bit of defending, and Chris came in, saw something in training where I could finish, where I could score. I was decent at sort of scoring goals. Played a system that suited myself, but also other players as well. You know, we went with the back three, well, back five, you know, with the wing backs, lads out wide that would get up and down the field, and 3 lads in midfield with myself, sort of given a license to get forward. And I loved every minute of it, you know, and I owe Chris a lot, because he gave me that opportunity to flourish, really.
I think you got best part 20 goals in consecutive seasons, so your name, your reputation's getting out there. As a player, are you aware of then, obviously it's the days before social media, you probably have to rely on the Sunday papers to see who you're getting linked with, but are you aware all the time then of what's happening and the noise and the chatter about Tommy Miller coming through the ranks?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, you hear little bits, but I mean, I was loving it at Hartlepool. I was really enjoying myself. I mean, I was playing week in, week out. I was scoring goals. We were winning games. You know, we were doing well. We were looking towards the top of the table, and I could have left after the first playoff defeat, the first year, which I think was Darlington, was it?
Yes.
You might be right. Yeah, and then obviously I got sort of. Chris said, "Come on, stay for another year. You know, do another year." I did, and then tried to have another go at it. And then obviously we got beat off Blackpool, and the time was right then to sort of to move on and have a chance at the higher divisions. And but like I say, Hartlepool was brilliant for myself.
I think you go and then, you know, for what, £750,000, a big fee for the club, but allowed Chris to take the club and get some big signings in to get that experience, because that Blackpool game was a bit of an eye-opener, wasn't it, in the playoffs, where, especially at Bloomfield Road.
It was, you know, and they were too strong for us, you know, over the 2 games, and they certainly deserved to go through to the final. But then it was all change after that. You know, I went for the money and what the club received, and he was allowed to bring players in, and he built a squad which was obviously capable of getting out the league. But it was good times for Hartlepool. You know, you could only see good things happening, and I was delighted to see them push on from when I left.
And you go to Ipswich, and it's a move that not many players tend to make, to go from, in effect, the bottom division to the top division, the Premier League. How much of a step, and is it an eye opener for you to make that big leap?
Massive step. You know, I knew I'd go there, and I knew I wasn't going to get in the team straight away. Certainly not. Pre-season was good, tough, but you're playing with some fantastic players. You know, they'd obviously just finished 5th in the Premier League, so they were in Europe. It was mad. You know, I'd watched them on Match of the Day a few months earlier, and now I'm starting playing with them, training with them, and good experience. You know, great manager, George Burley, great bloke. Learned a lot off him. Bided me time. Got in towards the back end of the Premier League campaign. Featured in Europe, maybe debut in Europe, in Russia. So some great experiences early doors, and like I say, Ipswich getting relegated in the Premier League probably has helped myself, because I knew I'd get more of a chance in the Championship, and it was that was my time to shine, really.
And then obviously you've spoken. Was it comforting, if you like, going to Ipswich, not because you were going to a club, a home where you'd been as a schoolboy, so the surroundings were familiar, rather than going to, say, Southampton, somewhere where you were unaware of, you didn't know? I assume there was still a lot of familiar faces around Portman Road at the time.
There was, you know, the person who was with the under-16s who released me, he was still around it. He was kit man now. So as I've walked into the building when I'd signed, he was the first person I saw, and he sort of looked at me and he went, "I knew you'd be a good player." and I sort of laughed at him, and it's a bit of a joke every time I saw him. But I mean, the decision at the time to release me was probably the right one. You know, I was 5'2" when I was 16 year old, and very small, very slight, hadn't developed, and Ipswich weren't prepared to take a chance on me then. And then obviously, what was it, 6 years later, they ended up paying money for me, and it was, like I said, you said earlier, it was a club that I'd had a little spell there, and I knew the place, and I wanted to go back. You know, it was a great opportunity for us, and I was delighted they came back for me.
And then, of course, your next move post Ipswich was back home, back to the northeast, which should have been the dream move for you, but in the end, it just didn't happen, really, did it? At Sunderland at that time, it was tough times at the Stadium of Light, wasn't it?
It was very tough. I think Mick McCarthy was very limited to what he could spend. You know, his budget wasn't great, and anyone will tell you the Championship to the Premier League is a big step, and you need money behind you. You need to strengthen, you need to splash the cash, because you have to survive in the Premier League. And Mick wasn't given the funds which he should have got, you know, and it was a struggle. It wasn't not just for myself, but for everyone. You know, I think there was probably 2 or 3 who maybe came out of that season with a good reference, you know, a glowing reference. But the rest of us, it was a battle. It was a slog. It wasn't for the lack of trying. I just think as a team that we didn't have enough quality, and ultimately we got relegated. And then Keane came in, and I wasn't really given an opportunity. I was injured when he came in, and I think the first week he brought 4 players in. I think 3 of them were midfielders, and it was always hard after that to sort of make me mark.
Yeah, 2 managers there. You speak about Mick McCarthy and Roy Keane, both very, obviously, well publicised what's happened between them two, but both very strong-willed, very firm, very opinionated managers. What was Mick McCarthy like to play for first?
Yeah, I mean, I knew that I was going to Sunderland, and I knew mixed football would be totally different. You know, I'd gone from a Joe Royle, who just sort of give you freedom, and the system suited me, which we played. I went to Sunderland, and it was a bit more, listen, we've gone to the Premier League, so you are going to have to be a bit men behind the ball and make it tough for the opposition. You're not going to get the chances you'd get in the Championship. And we played like a 4-4-2, and me and Dean Whitehead were in the midfield, and Dean liked to get forward, and it sort of restricted me a little bit. So I was having to sit a bit more, and it didn't get the sort of best out of me, if I'm honest with you. And Mick sort of was, I wouldn't say he was a negative manager, because he was a great bloke, and he was very honest, and he would tell you how it was. He was, you know, it was black or white with him. And I just think the type of football. But then again, it was probably the players we had, you know, and I touched on it earlier about the quality, and maybe we didn't have the quality to sort of get on the ball and move the ball around and create plenty of chances. We sort of weren't that team with probably the players we had.
So tell us about Roy Keane then. How's he? You
Well,
now on Sky, on TV as a pundit. Do you see him differently as a pundit now to you did when he was your gaffer, as he was?
Well, when he was manager, I mean, he used to slam all these pundits on the TV and hammer them, and he used to be like, "Oh, he's on the telly again," and Jesus Christ, you can't get Roy off the telly now. You know, he's on every other day, isn't he? You know, in the studio, and obviously he's very straight talking and he upsets a lot of people. But that's Roy Keane. He's not bothered, is he? Let's be honest. He'll even say it himself. I don't think he's got many friends, but I don't think he wants any friends, really. He came in again, a legend, a hero. What a player! You know, a fantastic player and big name for the club. Was given a lot of money to spend, and he got Sunderland up. You know, so you can't really fault him for that. He got promotion on his CV. From a personal point of view, it was just disappointing. I didn't really get an opportunity. You know, as I said, I was injured when he first came in. He brought a lot of players in, and I didn't really feature. I was doing quite well in the reserves and training and scoring goals, and I thought my opportunity might come, but it didn't. And I went on loan to Preston.
Yeah.
And one of the games was Preston v Sunderland, and he allowed me to play, and we beat them 1-0. So it was a bit of a
match, I think.
Yeah, I was, and it was a bit of I'll show you, you know. And I think I got a lot of stick off the Sunderland fans as well, because I sort of punched the air when we scored, but it was nothing to do against the Sunderland fans. It was more for Roy Keane, really, to sort of. Well, that was Roy in his early days as management, and I think he puts it in his book where he sort of says one of my regrets early on as a manager was to allow me to play, and but it's by and by, you know. I've got no ill feelings towards him. He was, if I see him, I'd speak to him. That's if he can remember us. But no, it's one of them. Different players and different managers, and it's just one of them. We move on.
But then you did see him again at your next club when you went back to Ipswich, and he popped up, didn't he?
Couldn't believe it. I went to Ipswich and I thought I'm as far away as him as possible. And then Jim was under a little bit of pressure in the second year, and he more or less said to us, "Listen, if we don't get in the playoffs, I'm going to be gone." I was coming out of contract, and Jim said if I could sort myself out, get yourself fixed up. So I think it was around about April time. Sheffield Wednesday sort of showing an interest, so I signed a pre-contract with them, so I knew where I was going. And luckily for me, it proved the right decision because Roy Keane was appointed from nowhere. Again, Ipswich had a bit of money to spend. Roy was the man. He was going to take Ipswich back up the leagues, and he came in and had the meeting. And again, he comes through the door, and I'm the first person he sees. And he sort of looks at us and he goes, "I bet you didn't think you'd see me again, did you, Tommy?" And I looked at him and I thought, "No, you're right, I didn't. And I won't be seeing much more of you because I won't be here much longer." But yeah, funny. Football is funny.
Yeah, and then obviously he moves on. Sheffield Wednesday, I remember you scoring against Pools, a penalty at Hillsborough, I think, down there. But then you end up.
It was, yeah.
End up at Swindon, and we spoke about strong-willed managers, none more so than your next gaffer, Mr. Paolo Di Canio.
I thought I'd seen it all. I thought I'd seen it all in football. You know, I was 32, went down to Swindon. But it's funny because I got a phone call just before I went down to Swindon from an agent called Phil Spencer, and he left an answer machine message, and I thought, location. You know, Phil Spencer's on there, and I thought it was a wind-up. And it was like, "Hi, this is Phil Spencer, Paolo's agent. Can you come down to Swindon tomorrow, blah, blah, blah." And I thought, hang on a minute, this is a wind-up. Anyway, I rang him back later on, and I sort of said, "Hi, all right?" And he went, yeah, well, can you get down to Swindon tomorrow? So I ended up going down to Swindon on the train. I've gone in the room to meet Paolo, and he's got all these Italian sidekicks with him, you know, the assistant, the first team coach, the goalkeeper coach, and he's just sort of explaining how he runs the club, what he's expecting. And I'm looking at him, and he's just so intense. And again, what a player, what a character. And then he got on about days off, and he went, "Now, if you sign here," he said, "there's no days off." And I sort of looked at him and I thought, well, surely there must be a day off. You can't like train 7 days a week. And he went, this English mentality of Wednesdays, days off, no chance. He said, important. We train every day. So I thought, hang on a minute, right? I asked a few more questions about a few things, and then I'm getting the train home, and I'm thinking, this is where I'm going to go. It was an opportunity I couldn't turn down, just to play for him. You know, I wanted to see what he was all about, and I loved it. I loved it. But let me tell you now, I think we went about 78 days, I think it was, without a day off. So he was right. And I think the day off we had was when we were travelling back from somewhere, like Italy pre-season or something, and he classed that as the day off. But just mad. Some of his methods were mad.
That must have been hard for you as well, because you had 2 young twins back here in the northeast as well. So I remember at the time you were you'd finished training at 12, you might blast home, put them to bed, then head straight back again. Exactly.
And then because I was a bit older, there was no sort of, oh, go on, you have the day off. You know, it was one of them. And to be fair, I probably wouldn't dare ask him. We would finish training sometimes. Say we played on a Tuesday night and we were in the next day on a Wednesday, so we might get away a little bit earlier. So what I was doing was straight away, as soon as we were done, I was travelling back to the northeast for 4 hours, 3 hours 45 or whatever, coming back, seeing the kids for a couple of hours, and then rushing back down to Swindon again. It was like 520 mile within the space of, I don't know, 10 hours maybe, just to get back for training the next day. And that was a tough slog. But I loved playing for him. I did actually learn a lot from him. Not his man management, you know, because he was quite brutal to certain individuals, and you had to be mentally strong or you would crumble. You know, he could ruin you. But in terms of his coaching, his ideas, his attention to detail, his analysis on the opposition, he was very, very good. And it's just a shame that I knew that if he didn't change when he went to Sunderland, that he wouldn't last long, just because there's bigger egos at Sunderland, you know, lads on a lot more money. And obviously in the end, I think they played a part in getting in the sack, really. Whereas at Swindon, it was working because we were top of the league. He could control a lot of players. And we sort of just went along with it, really, and because it was working.
Yeah.
Good guy, you know, ultra cool. He was a top man, good man.
And then when he went, you dipped your toes into management for the first time as caretaker boss there.
I did, you know. It was, I mean, there was lots of stories that he was going to walk out. You know, he was already sort of everything he asked for, he was getting. You know, and I think the club was blowing a lot of money. You know, and they were struggling a little bit financially. And I think the chairman at the time was wanting to get out. There was talk of new owners coming in, who said they were going to do this and do that, and they didn't deliver in terms of backing him with money and financial support. And I think he was wanting to get 3 new players in. We were top of the league, and I think what he said to the potential owners was, if I can get these 3 lads in, I'll guarantee you promotion. They didn't back him. I think it was Marlon Pack, Bradley Wright Phillips. There was one more who I can't remember off the top of my head, but he didn't get the go-ahead with that, and all of a sudden he walked out. And I remember the sort of acting chairman at the time coming up to me and said, listen, would you and Darren Ward do the team for the next couple of days? And we sort of said, of course we would, you know, experienced players. But we were both playing in the team. We were both still wanting to play as well. So it was quite hard for us because none of us wanted to be on the sidelines, and we still wanted to play a part. And after, I think it was 2 games, we went and saw the acting chairman and just said, listen, this is not for us. You need to get somebody in. And Kevin MacDonald came in, and Mark Cooper came in alongside him, ex-Hartlepool.
Did you give the lads a day off when you took over then?
We got Wednesday off, actually. I went back to, in terms of the training though, we sort of kept everything the same, like the sort of what we did in training, but we did get a day off, you know. The lads needed it, you know. I mean, Jesus Christ, it was just for mental as well, you know, as well as physical. You know, you needed a day off to recharge the batteries, see your families, see your friends or whatever. But no, it was a good learning curve. It was a hard because you're dealing with players, you're dealing with agents, you're dealing with scouts, and it was a sort of first glimpse of what it takes, and it's a lot of work being a manager.
And then you have a couple more moves, and then your career comes full circle, and you end back up at Victoria Park, and it was a bit of a probably not the. You had chances to come. You almost signed for Pools a couple of times before. You ended up that season back under he ended up as the third manager. You had a couple of chances to come back before then, I think, as well, didn't you?
I did, yeah. There was a couple of opportunities, and it was close on a couple of times, and I just felt the time was right. I'd left sort of Bury. Colin Cooper asked me to come in and do pre-season, did it, and then he obviously signed me in the end. And again, I knew it was going to be my sort of last club, really, as such. The sort of, I was getting to an age now where I was thinking about coaching, thinking about managing. But I was hoping I could still help the team. And Colin Cooper obviously didn't last long. A couple of managers came in. I was injured with my calf. It was a nightmare. I kept re-tearing it, kept trying to come back and doing all the rehab work in the gym, then coming out onto the training field. And after about 10 minutes, I was going to do something quick and it was just tearing. It was a nightmare. I ended up going to London to see some specialists down there. I had a bit of a problem with the scar tissue. There was quite a lot and it kept sticking to the inside and it was just a nightmare. And obviously the team was struggling and I couldn't sort of help them out really. And I got back towards the end, but luckily we stayed up, the famous season where Ronnie obviously got us over the line. And then obviously after that, the club has dwindled and got relegated, which is a shame because it deserves to be in the Football League.
But you had that, you got your final run out when you were stuck on 599 games for 8 months or whatever. That must have been I know it was a late substitute appearance, but it must have been nice just to tick it off and tick the OCD off as well, was it?
Definitely. As you say, OCD is massive with me. I like everything sort of rounded off, or I like straight lines and all sorts of stuff. But I was stuck on 599 and it was winding me up. And I was thinking I'm never going to get back. And that sort of ticked. I mean, if I'm honest with you, I was never fully right. But because I was desperate to get that 600th game, and I was grateful for Ronnie putting us on really, for the last sort of 20 minutes or whatever it was. And obviously it was the game we sort of secured safety. So got to 600 and it was sort of 600 and out, I think, after that, and went to Halifax, had a little spell there, but obviously I played one game and then the manager got the sack there and I helped out the assistant manager till the end of the season. So we'll probably say 601, which is not a good number for me, but I try not to remember that one. But Halifax are non-league, so I don't class it. I don't
get away with it.
I should play for Spennymoor one game and get 602, but like I said, Halifax were non-league, so I'm not classing it as a football league. Yeah.
I gather you're bringing the boots out. Is it next weekend for a charity game as well?
I am, yeah. I've been invited to play for Sheffield Wednesday v Doncaster. There's some big hitters playing for Sheffield Wednesday. I don't know why they asked me to play, but they must have been short. So I'm going to. Chris Waddle's playing. Yeah, I think Des Walker's playing. So some absolute legends there. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward. It's obviously for charity, and I'll be pleased to get the boots on and have a little run around and see how long I last.
And now, we spoke about managers and what's the Tommy Miller managerial style then? What do you take from Di Canio and Roy Keane and Mick McCarthy?
I think you take bits from all of them. Ultimately you are your own sort of man, but you take the best bits from certain people who you've come across in football and different ideas, different ways. Recruitment's massive. You need to get the right players in. I've had a good sort of few years at this level now, and obviously I know the levels above as well. So getting the right players in, getting the right fit to how you want to play. I want us to be flexible. I don't want to be sticking to one sort of system. So I need players to be adaptable. One thing's for sure is players will be fit who play for me, because if they aren't, they won't be in the team. I need legs. I need real energy. Obviously, you've got to have the quality as well, but it's a big plus for me. Energy. It's needed in the modern game, certainly.
Excited about the chance then ahead at Spennymoor this season?
Very excited. It's a fantastic club. I think a lot of people from the outside looking in realise the direction it's going in or trying to go in. Everything is in place behind the scenes. There's always stuff going on as well. You go to the ground, which I have been sort of the last few weeks, nearly every day, and there's people working on different parts. And you speak to the chairman and you're just blown away. And he's been like that from day one since I've come to the club. You know, his plans in place and he's delivered on all fronts. You know, he's going to do this, he does it. You know, he's going to get the pitch sorted, he does it. There's sort of no grey areas with him. And he supports, you know, obviously Jason over the years, he supported him, give him the backing. And Jason sort of built the house really at Spennymoor, and I'm hoping to build a bigger house, if that makes sense, you know, to extend it, to try and get us to the next step. And it's a tough league, you know, it is a tough league, and you've got full-time teams in there, you know, you've got New York, you've got Boston, you've got some good clubs in there. So Filed are another one, you know, big hitters who throw a lot of money at it. So you're competing with some good teams, but I'd like to think we'd be up there with a chance. I'm hoping to build a strong, competitive team, and I'm looking forward to it. Exciting times, hopefully, for Spennymoor. More exciting times.
I'm sure everyone at Pools wishes you all the best. I'm sure you'd like to see a few familiar Hartlepool faces there when Pools aren't playing or away from home.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to see them come along. You know, they'd love it. It's a great a day out. You know, it's a great experience, not just the football. You know, you've got the clubhouse, you've got the fan zone areas, and they'll be pleasantly surprised at how good it is. You know, so get them over when Hartlepool's not playing at home and they don't go to the away games. It'd be great to see them.
Good stuff. And we've ran quite quickly there over your career, 600 games, 20 managers or whatever. One thing I would like to do as part of this this interview is just you give me your best five-a-side team, players you've played with in your career, your best five-a-side team. You can pick yourself if you want, but just gives you best five-a-side. Yeah.
Right, okay. It's quite tough, this, because I've played with a lot of players, obviously, over the years, and been in a lot of clubs. So let's have a little think about this. Right, who have I got in goal? I've got Kelvin Davis in goal.
Yeah. Ipswich and Sunderland.
Ex-Sunderland and ex-Ipswich, yeah, and obviously a Southampton legend. Not just because of his goalkeeping skills, but he's very good on the ball with his feet. So his distribution's important in the five-a-side. He can play us out from the back and little short ones. And he'll fill the goal well because he's a big lad. Who will we have at the back? I think I'm going to go for, this might surprise you, but I'm going to go for Ivan Campo.
Not a bad choice.
He is my five-a-side team because he's got the quality, he can read the game. Yes, his legs might have been going a little bit, but in five-a-side he'd be fine. You know, he'd be okay on that. I'm not going to pick myself. Yeah, he did. He had a good pedigree. Midfield, I'm going to take it all the way back to Hartlepool days, and I'm going to go for Tinks. I'm going to have Tinks in there because I owe Tinks quite a lot, him and Paul Stevenson, really, from the Hartlepool days. But Tinks obviously used to do a bit of the donkey work for me, you know, win the ball back, win his headers, win his tackles, physical, strong. So I'm going to have him in my team. He's going to be in midfield, and he can play as well. You know, he was good on the ball, and he could chip in with some goals. So I'll have him in my team. Alongside him, I'll have Jim Magilton, who was a Rolls Royce of a player. Unbelievable footballer. Just wanted the ball anywhere on the pitch. Just demanded it. Good standards. So he's in my team. So how many is that? I've got 4.
Manager of yours as well, Magilton, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a manager as well. Striker. Now, the best striker I played with is Paolo Di Canio, who was a Spanish lad at Ipswich, who was unbelievable. Yeah. But the way I'm going to pick this five-a-side team is I'm going to have Darren Bent in there.
Yeah.
Now, I could have went for Jordan Rhodes because as a goal scorer, Jordan Rhodes was as good as anyone. But I just think Bentley, with his pace, his movement, and obviously he can score goals, and he went on into the Premier League and was brilliant in Premier League, you know. So I'll have Darren Bent up top, and I'm sure we'll be fine with that. So I think that's 5?
Yeah.
That's me keeper.
Tommy Miller on the bench?
Yeah, that's 5, yeah. Yeah, I'll go on the bench just in case we need someone to take a penalty, and I'll come on and take a penalty and hopefully score. So yeah, that's how I see it. That's how my five-a-side.
Am I right in saying your manager will be Joe Royle?
100%, definitely. Yeah, I think. Listen, I've played for some good managers, but I think Joe Royle was the best. He got the best out of me, definitely. just so relaxed. He gave me freedom to get forward, and he used to just say, "Get in the box," which was music to my ears, and loved playing for him. Willie Donaghy was assistant, who was very serious, but they worked well together. You know, it was chalk and cheese, and it was a good partnership, and had some good times under Joe. So yeah, he'd be my manager definitely.
Good shout. And well, Tommy, that's wonderful. Thanks ever so much for your time, and as ever, really appreciate it. And hopefully, I'm sure you'll have one eye on Pool's early days on Saturday. You've seen a couple of games yourself. You've been in the Vic a couple of games doing commentary with BBC Tees and for the club. So you've seen them play. You've seen what they're capable of. Is it playoffs? What's your verdict on Pool's coming through the playoffs this season? Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, like you said there, I've been at quite a few games. Doing a bit of radio work, and I'm surprised they haven't asked us back because I've never seen them beat at home. They've been flying, but they've been very good at home when I've been there. Very strong. The system he plays suits the personnel. He's got 2 wing backs there. I know in recent games he's gone back to a 4, maybe because of injuries and suspensions and stuff like that. But the system he uses, the 3 at the back with Ferguson and Sturry, who just put balls in the box all day long and have fantastic quality. And when you've got someone like Luke Armstrong, who I think, let's be honest, was the difference when they brought him in. He made a big difference because suddenly you had someone who could score you a goal out of nothing. And yes, he cost a lot of money, but if they get promoted, it's money well spent. Obviously, you've got Nicky Featherstone in midfield, who's still more than capable at that level easily. One of the best players at that level. Keeps them ticking away nicely, even though he shouts at them all the time. Very vocal, and I'm sure the lads on the pitch want to kill him when they come off. But that's just his character, and if it gets the best out of players, then so be it. But no, he's built a good team. I think Liddell coming back into the middle at the back of the back 3, it suits him. He's very comfortable and very reliable. And now, hopefully they can do it. Hopefully they can get over the line, and good for the club, good for the town, for them to be back in the Football League, because that's where they deserve to be. It's where they should be.
And hopefully, we'll see Spennyworth following up there in the not too distant future, Tommy.
It would be nice. It would be nice one day. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, that's the aim of the club, and we'll give it our best shot, and hopefully one day.
Yeah, well, great stuff. Thanks ever so much for your time, Tommy, and very best wishes for next season at the Brewery Field from everyone at Pools.
Thanks very much. Cheers. Thank you.